You and I as the Israelites, have to war within yourselves and against your own fleshly lusts. You have to war with worldly temptation. With all the spiritual energy you can muster, war for the kingdom of Yah.
We aim and shoot scriptural bullets at demon troops. I'm just spitting truth. Look at yourself if it's staying in you. Release yourself when the lies in the doctrine you clinging to. Repenting mean the path that you walk and you see it through. That mean you gotta switch up your people, leaving the crew. That mean you gotta watch what you say and watch what you do. But until you see the
truth. All right, Shalom, Israel, Shalom. First, I want to start off by giving all praise to the Most High Yah. It's the name of the Son, Yahweh Shai. And the title of today's lesson is Get Your Mind Right, Part 2. Did Part 1 about a year ago, so I'm coming into Part 2 today. We start off by getting Acts 13, 22, and 23. Because we coming into these times where things starting to get real serious. You better have your mind right, because the Most High got something coming.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 13, verses 22. And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to be their king, to whom also he gave testimony and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart, which shall fulfill all my will.
You see that? So we got to have a mind similar to what David has, after the heart of the Most High. Now, by heart, I mean after the mind. You know, the heart is the mind. So we got to be trying to figure out how the Most High understand things and how the Most High thinks, and try to fall in line with that. Go on. Give me verse 23.
Of this man's seed have God, according to his promise, raised up unto Israel a Savior, Jesus.
You see that? So out of David came Yahweh Shai. So we, like I said, we got to have a mind similar to how David had, trying to figure out not our own will, but the will of the Most High. Let me get 2 Chronicles 1, 9 through 12.
Okay, my bad. This is the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 1, verses 9 through 12. Now, O Lord God, let thy promise unto David my father be established. For thou hast made me king over a people like the dust of the earth in multitude. Give me now wisdom and knowledge, that I may go out and come in before this people. For who can judge this thy people? This is so great. And God said to Solomon, because this was in thine heart, and thou hast not asked riches, wealth, or honor, nor the life of thine enemies, neither yet hast asked long life, but hast asked wisdom and knowledge for thyself, that thou mayest judge my people, over whom I have made thee king. 12. Wisdom and knowledge is granted unto thee, and I will give thee riches and wealth and honor, such as none of the kings have had that have been before thee, neither shall there any after thee have the like.
Yes, so I didn't ask, or Solomon didn't ask the Most High for things to benefit him or to gain, or for his own personal gain. He asked for wisdom to be able to govern the people, and great understanding. So you see that? So he wasn't selfish. So that's what we have to put aside, our own wants and desires, and ask the Most High, what can we do that's best for this nation? What can we do that's go, improve this nation? What can we do that's go help your will be done? See that? And then, that's how you get your mind right. You can get Wisdom of Solomon 7, verse 7 through 11.
This is the book of the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verses 9 through 11.
7 through 11. 7 through 11.
7 through 11. Wherefore I prayed, and understanding was given me, I called upon God, and the spirit of wisdom came to me. I preferred her before scepters and thrones, and esteemed riches nothing in comparison of her. Neither compared I unto her any precious stone, because all gold in respect of her is as little sand, and silver shall be counted as clay before her.
You see that? So the Most High, well, Solomon equating his wealth and his riches is sand and is clay compared to the wisdom that the Most High gave him. You see that? So that's why we need to seek this wisdom and seek this understanding, keep these laws, because this information is far more valuable than any riches that we could ever have. Because like the scripture says, fool and his money shall soon depart. So keep going.
We are at 10.
10, yep.
I loved her above health and beauty, and chose to have her instead of light. For the light that cometh from her never goeth out. All good things come to me with her, and innumerable riches in her hands.
You see that? So this all good things came to Solomon because of the wisdom that he asked. You see that? So that's like I said, this is more important and more valuable than any earthly riches that you could ask for or could obtain. Let me get the book of Luke, chapter 2, 46 through 52.
Book of Luke, chapter 2, 4 through 6.
46 through 52.
46. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days, as they returned, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. But they, supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey, and they sought him after their kinsfolk and acquaintance. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him.
You see that? They was looking for Yahweh Shai. He was just 12 years old, and he got separated from the company in Jerusalem, and now they looking for him. Keep going.
And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions.
You see that? He was missing for 3 days, and he was back in the temple for 3 days, talking to the doctors and scholars of the law. Keep going.
And all that heard him were astounded at his understanding and answers. And when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorrowing. And he said unto them, How is it that ye sought me? Was ye not that I must be about my father's business?
Hold on, read that again. He said,
How is it that ye sought me? Was ye not that I must be about my father's business?
You see that? Yahweh Shai said, I'm on a mission. I didn't come here for what y'all are talking about. I came here to do my father's business and my father's business only. Keep going.
And they understood not the saying which he spake unto them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all these sayings in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man.
You see that? So the Most High, so his favor increased with the Most High and with man, because now he getting the understanding. They respected that he was about his father's business. See that? So it wasn't about what he wanted or what his parents wanted. He was here for the will of the Most High. You get Matthew 26 and 39.
Matthew chapter 26, verses 39. And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, as thou wilt.
You see that? So Yahweh Shai, this is when it came time for him to be crucified. And, he was asking the Most High, is it a way that, a way that I could get out of this? But at the end of the day, he said, let thy will be done. So even though he didn't want to do it, he understood that it wasn't what he wanted. It was what the Most High wanted and what the Most High had purpose for him to do. You see that? So that's how we have to be. We have to be able to give up what we want in order to do the will of the Most High. Let me get this first article. This is a CNN article, and it is titled, "Why Teens Are So Stressed According to an Expert." As teens head back to school this fall, many parents are worried about their mental health, and for good reason. Teens today, especially girls, are more likely to feel persistently sad or hopeless and think about suicide than they did a decade ago. 40% of high schoolers reported experiencing persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness in 2023, according to the Youth Risk Behavior by the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. That figure was down from a high of 42% 2 years earlier during the COVID pandemic, but it's about 10% points higher than a decade earlier. You see that? The journalist Matt Richards sheds light on the teen mental health crisis and what can be done about it in this new book, How We Grow Up Understanding Adolescence. Rich Tell, a Boulder, Colorado-based science reporter for the New York Times, spent 4 years researching adolescence of this book. I want to go back up to a key phrase here, and it reads, today, teens today, especially girls, are more likely to say that they feel persistently sad or hopeless and think about suicide. You see that? So focus on that. Remember that, sad and hopeless, specifically hopeless, because when you hopeless, that means you don't know what's next. You don't know what you should be doing. You just kind of wandering aimlessly through life. So fortunately, these scriptures give us an idea on what we should be doing. So the Most High, he got us. He gave us a purpose. Let me get Deuteronomy 10 and 12.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verses 12. And now, Israel, what doeth the Lord thy God require of thee, but to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve him, the Lord thy God, with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
Keep going. The next verse 13.
To keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good.
You see that? So he gave us that's clear direction right there on one thing that we should be doing, that I can guarantee you most of these vast majority of teenagers are not doing. So that give you a little hope right there. That give you something to do, something to focus on, a goal to reach. Let me get Ecclesiastes 12 and 13.
Is the book of Ecclesiastes. You said Ecclesiastes, right?
Yeah, Ecclesiastes.
Okay. Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man.
You see that? No need to feel hopeless. You got your duty. You got your goals right here. This should be a big part of your life's mission. Figure out how to keep these commandments and work towards perfection. So no need to feel sad and hopeless right there. That's a big assignment right there. That ought to keep you on point. Let me see. Let me get back to this article. In this subsection, what explains today's teens' mental health crisis? Adolescent mental health is best understood by understanding what adolescents are going through. And there is a new science that helps explain it. They have a highly sensitized brain in a period of time when the world is moving very quickly and they are receiving a ton of information. Sometimes what they experience is kind of information overload that looks like intense rumination, anxiety, and other mental distress. Does a lot of that information overload come from social media? Sort of. This is a misconception that the phone is a singular or overwhelming source of the problem. In fact, the science is more complicated. In the 1980s, adolescents faced immense changes with binge drinking, drunk driving, early experimentation with sex, injury, and death. Those risks have fallen sharply. What's important about that context is that it tells us there is a larger issue going on during this pivotal life period, and that merely taking the phones away will not solve it. There is a reason to limit access to phones because screen time displaces sleep, exercise, and in-person interaction. At the same time, the challenges adolescents face come from a larger phenomenon. So basically, if you take the phones away, you still gonna have another problem, but it is important to limit access to the phone from what this expert is saying. So clearly you heard what he said, displace sleep, exercise, and in-person interaction. So that's one of the problems with young adults and teenagers today is that they spend so much time on their phones that they don't develop the social skills and conflict resolution skills that previous generations had to develop. So that's part of the large issue at hand. Of course, phones and social media is not all bad, of course, but the way we use it is bad because we spend a lot of time in other people business, doing stuff that we ought not to do. Matter of fact, let me get 1 Peter 4 and 15.
This book of 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 15. But let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters.
You see that? And that's what a lot of us doing. Always wondering what other people doing. That's kind of what, especially with see this a lot, especially with young women. They always worried about what somebody else got going on, or what that's part of the reason why a lot of relationships don't last either, because they always comparing their relationship to what they see somebody else doing on the internet. So it's hard to compare, and you don't see the whole picture. They're not gonna show you the whole picture of what they really got going on, because why would they? They just go show you the good stuff. Let me get Ecclesiastes 11 and 10.
Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verses 10.
Ecclesiasticus, all right.
Okay, Ecclesiasticus 11 and 10. My son, meddle not with many matters. If thou meddle much, thou shalt not be innocent. And if thou follow after, thou shalt not obtain. Neither shalt thou escape by fleeing.
You see that? You see a lot of people on social media, they more invested in somebody else's life than they are their own. They meddling in somebody else's matters. And you see what they say, if you do that, you're not going to be innocent either. Because you're not minding your own business and worried about your own situation. I said, these people that you don't even don't know from a can of paint. You just know them from TV or from social media. Let me get another portion of the article. Scroll down. Okay, question, the subsection. Some people think the reason more teens have mental health problems today is because we diagnose and talk about them more than in the past. Or do teens actually have mental health problems now? And Richard replied, I think both things are true. There are more teens with mental health challenges, and we are scrutinizing it greatly. Next subsection. You say that social media affects different kids very differently. Why is that? And he replied, some kids, interestingly, are actually in a better mood after using social media. Some kids are in a worse mood. It really depends on your genetic predisposition and how you use it. Most importantly, how you use it. If you use it all the time, you're displacing things we know to be really healthy, like sleep, exercise, and in-person interaction. That's really important. But using it in the moment can affect different kids differently. Some kids wind up unhappier. If you're lonely and you want to connect with somebody, that's different than if you're predispositioned to compare yourself with somebody else. And every time you see the ostensibly healthy, wealthy, beautiful person online, you say, I am terrible by comparison. Or you see the fit person online and say, I need to stop eating. But not everybody has that predisposition. You see that? So that's one of the big problems. A lot of young adults and kids, they look at other people's lives and they immediately start comparing. And, it's kind of like a form of coveting in a way, too. So, you got to be careful with that. Let me get Psalm 78, 5-8.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 78. 78. 5-8. For he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that they should make them known to their children.
See that? So that's rule one. We need to be teaching our children these laws. Keep going.
That the generation to come might know them, even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children, that they might set their hope in God and forget the works of God, and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments.
You see that they might set their hope in God. You see that? You don't set your hope in Donald Trump. You don't set your hope in who was that? Oh, that was Chris Brown that came to Detroit. I think that was last week or week before last. Had these women going crazy. They paying money to take pictures of them, take pictures with them and stuff. So you don't set your hope in Chris Brown. You don't set your hope in whatever celebrity or whatever social media influencer got going on. Set your hope in the Most High and keeping these commandments. Keep going.
8. And might not be as their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that set not their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with God.
You see that? So that's what we need to do. We need to focus on getting our mind right, getting our spirit right with the Most High, because it's tough times coming up. You see it's obvious. You see the economy, how unstable it is. You see the wars brewing over here. You still got pestilence floating around. You can tell the end is getting close, and you'll be crazy not to have your mind right. And just imagine you up here. Only thing you focused on is what somebody doing on social media, what somebody got going on the internet, and everything pop off, and you don't have no power, or you don't have no food. You ain't gonna know what to do. You gonna lost your mind because you ain't never spend time trying to prepare yourself and get your mind right. Let me get Lamentations 3, 25-30.
The book of Lamentations, chapter 3, verses 25. The Lord is good unto them that wait for him, to the soul that seeketh him. It is a good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man that he bear the yoke in his youth.
You see that? So these young men, instead of being on social media, you need to be hoping and waiting for the Most High. Waiting don't mean sitting around twiddling your thumbs. Waiting means getting prepared. You need to be learning these laws, learning how to keep these laws and commandments, learning how to fast, because that's a big thing right there. Can you imagine if it's a famine and you might not be able to get food as often as you can get it now, but you've never been on a fast? So this is your first time going without food for any more than a couple of hours. You're going to lose your mind if you never did it before. You better get your mind right. Keep going.
28. He sitteth alone and keepeth silence, but he have borne it upon him. He putteth his mouth in the dust, if so be there may be hope. He giveth his cheek to him that smiteth him. he is filled full with reproach.
You see that? So you need to be able to hold your tongue and be quiet and learn and take correction in your youth, because some you don't quite know enough to teach yet, so you don't need to be teaching nobody. You need to be sitting there quiet and learning and putting in some work, so then you can come back later and teach. Let me get Proverbs 21, 25, and 26.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 21, verses 25. The desire of the slothful killeth him, for his hands refuse to labor. He coveteth greedily all the day long, but the righteous giveth and spareth not.
You see that go back into that social media thing, how a lot of people, they look at somebody else's life and they covet it. They jealous of somebody else's life. Like I said, not knowing what kind of work they did to get there or what kind of evil they did to get there. You just look at that and say, I want that, and make you feel some kind of way. But you don't know. That's what I say. That's why it's a sin to be covetous. Let me get this next article. Because now this is very important. And this one says, this is a psychiatric news, and it's titled, Studies Tie Marijuana Use to Lasting Cortical Changes, Schizophrenia. Use of marijuana during teen years may cause accelerated thinning in a key developmental area of the brain, as well as attentional deficits. Meanwhile, cannabis use disorder is contributing to a growing share of schizophrenia across populations, and young males appear to be particularly susceptible. These are among the findings of two recent studies on cannabis use, both of which were named in 2023 leading research achievement from the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation, the world's largest private funder of mental health research. The studies were issued as nearly half of young adults aged 19 to 30 reported past year use of marijuana, a use record, and more than 1 in 10 reported daily use. In the first study, initiation of cannabis in adolescence or young adulthood was associated with lasting changes in the brain's cortex, an area that is not fully developed until the early 20s. Get out of here. According to a report by Matthew D. Alba, PhD, and colleagues in molecular psychiatry last June, the areas linked to cannabis use tended to vary based on the age at which cannabis use was initiated, researchers found. Teen use of cannabis was associated with accelerated thinning, primarily in the frontal cortex, a region critical for executive functioning, planning, and decision-making. Researchers also found that teen cannabis use was tied to past month use of illicit substance, including cannabis, ecstasy, and cocaine at age 22. You see that? So if you use cannabis, it affects the frontal lobe of your cortex and is more likely to give you schizophrenia. And, you're more likely to use other drugs later on in life. Alba's previous research tied to the cortical thinning to attentional impulsivity, for example, inability to remain on task. Analysis showed that this thinning persisted into young adulthood and was still visible on the participants' magnetic resonance imaging scans, or MRI, at the age of 22. The foundational work is believed to be the largest longitudinal neuroimaging study to date, examining the link between cannabis use by young people and brain development. The report dovetails work by Alba and colleagues, published in JAMA Psychiatry in 2021. You see that? So when you use cannabis, it affects how your brains develop, especially when you start as a teenager, which is when most people start. Get the next portion of this article. A study by Carson, PhD, and colleagues found strong evidence of a link between cannabis use disorder and schizophrenia among both men and women, according to a study of medical records for nearly 7 million people in Denmark. The records span 5 decades and include those of 45,000 people with schizophrenia. Researchers found that men with chronic use disorder have a higher risk of schizophrenia than women, and young men face the highest risk, according to a May 2023 report in Psychological Medicine. In fact, young males between age 16 to 20 were twice as likely to develop schizophrenia as women. Using statistical models, researchers estimated that 15% of schizophrenia cases in men might be prevented if chronic use disorder was avoided. However, among young aged men, age 21 to 30, as many as 30% of cases of schizophrenia might have been prevented. Cannabis use disorder is not the primary driver of schizophrenia, yet researchers found that CUD is contributing to a steady increasing share of cases over the past 5 decades. This is likely due to the increases in the THC content of cannabis, global legalization, and prevalence of diagnosis of CUD over time, authors noted. In the past decade, access to cannabis has rapidly increased. In fact, 3/4 of Americans, 74%, live in a state where marijuana is not legal for recreational or medical use, according to an analysis in February by the Pew Center. 4 of 5 Americans live in a county in which there is at least one legal cannabis dispensary. You see that? So as cannabis use increases, it's increasing the likelihood of you developing schizophrenia, especially in men. You see that? So, they tell you that marijuana is good for you, or marijuana have all these benefits, and you smoking this stuff and don't really know what's in it. And if it did have any kind of medical use, they didn't genetically modify the medicinal purposes out of it, and it's just the only purpose of it is to get you high. And it's side effects to that. You can get 1 Thessalonians 5, 4-9.
Is the book of 1 Thessalonians, chapter 5, 4-9. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are all the children of light, and the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night.
You see that? How are you gonna know that we in danger by being attacked from all these foreign countries? If you've been sleeping, you've been high all this time. You ain't paying attention to what Putin doing. You ain't paying attention to what North Korea doing. You ain't paying attention to what Israel doing. You get high all the time. So how are you gonna know? You're not paying attention to the politicians that's been elected and how they writing policies that affect your daily life. You've been high all this time. You're not gonna know that. So why are you getting high? You're not focused on how to be a man after Yah's own heart. You're not focused on how to keep these laws and commandments. You're not even focused on really how to tend to your kids, because you stay getting high all the time at every opportunity. People that smoke weed, they don't think that that's a drug for some reason. I don't know why, because they have that habit bad and don't even realize it. And so they prop Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa and whatever other celebrity they got up here now that say smoking weed ain't bad for you, and they got you really thinking that smoking weed ain't bad for you. Can you imagine when like I said, when stuff really started to pop off, you can't get weed and you ain't never went without weed for no period of time, you gonna lose your mind. I say you barely can make it without food, then you throw a drug habit in on top of that. How you gonna make it? You gonna be ready to kill your brother over some weed. Keep going, verse 8.
Verse 8. But let us, who are of the day, be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet, the hope of salvation. For God For God hath not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Jesus Christ.
You see that? The Most High, he wants you to be saved. But you gotta want to be saved. And being high, it ain't gonna help you get saved. You gonna end up being appointed to wrath. Because you a child of Israel. You supposed to be getting saved and be above all these people. But how can you if you can spend all your time smoking weed and getting schizophrenia and not letting your cortex develop? See that? Let me get Titus 2, verses 2 through 8.
It's the book of Titus, chapter 2, verses 2 through 8. That the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, and patience.
You see that? So not only do we have to be sober, we have to be grave, temperate, like even tone, don't be easily flustered. Sound in faith, in charity, and patience. So, the Most High, he giving us all these things to do to be better people. So we should never just be walking around here depressed and sad with mental health issues and out of our mind all the time. He gave us assignments to do. We got work to do. You don't have time to be sitting here feeling sorry for yourself. Keep going.
3. The aged woman likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed.
You see that? So the older women, the younger women, they learning their behavior from them. You don't see too many older women now that's, like what I say, my grandparents' age in their 70s and 80s. You don't see too many. The younger generation coming up, they not on track to be that when they get older. They still, women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, they still trying to go to the club and hang out. They're not teaching the young women nothing. They not keepers at home. They not teaching good things. They still out there in the club getting drunk, partying, doing who knows what. They not they accusing people of all kind of stuff. They don't follow the law on how that. They're not following the law and keeping these laws and commandments. They still being busybodies in everybody else's business. You see that? So they supposed to be the ones that teach the children and the young women. They supposed to teach them first. Keep going. Start at verse 6.
Verse 6. Young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded, in all things showing thyself a pattern of good works, in doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity, sound speech, that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you.
You see that? As a man in this truth, you're supposed to have a track record of good deeds coming up behind you. You see that? So you got to make sure you have that good reputation, because, like I said, as a man in the truth, all our reputation is dependent on your actions. Let me get Leviticus 19, 16 through 18.
It's the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 16. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am the Lord. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord.
You see that? So we supposed to love our neighbors ourselves. We don't supposed to go up and down, tail bearing and lying on our neighbor and spread misinformation. We're not supposed to be holding a grudge against our neighbor for some petty thing that happened 20 years ago. It's people out here that hate their brother or hate their sister. You know, they might hate their brother because he stepped on his shoes in high school 20 years ago and he never forgave him. You know, it's women that might hate their sister because they wore the same outfit as them one day or something silly like that. You know, it's be silly stuff. We be mad at our brothers and sisters over silly stuff when you look at the grand scheme of things. And, you know, we gonna need each other in these times coming up. And say it's gonna be a time where we don't have access. We can't just go to the grocery store and pick up food. We're gonna have to try to get food on our own. And, you know, you sitting here with a grudge against your brother next door, and your brother might have an abundance of food over there, but you got a grudge against him. So he might knock your head off if you come over there asking him for some food. Let me get Job 5:17-19.
This is the book of Job, chapter 5, verses 17-19. Behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth. Therefore, despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. For he maketh sore and bindeth up. He woundeth, and his hands make whole. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles. Yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee.
You see that? So you should be happy when we go through these issues and these troubles. We should be happy because that means the Most High loves you and He's trying to get your mind right for what's to come. He taking time to correct you. You know, so we ought to be happy and give you 6 troubles, and in 7 there shall no evil touch you. So that 7 that represents perfection. So when you get it right, you getting it together, it's gonna ease up a little bit. Let me get Psalms 137, 7-9, because now these are the things that should make you truly happy.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 137, verses 7. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones.
You see that? So once the Most High get our mind right as a nation, we go definitely be happy when we see our enemies fall. We go be happy when we get to pay so-called white man back for the evil that they did to us. See that? So that's why you better get your mind right. Let me get Psalms 19 and 7.
Let's go to Psalms chapter 19 and 7. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple.
You see that? So quit being simple and complaining about these little minor issues and stressing out about these little minor issues, because these are small things compared to the real issues that these other nations go have. So what's rent? What's bills when you trying to inherit the kingdom of the Most High? So quit stressing about these little simple things. Let me get last verse, Philippians 4:6-7.
It's the book of Philippians, chapter 4, 6-7. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus.
You see that? So don't be by careful. That means full of cares. Don't be full of cares for little simple stuff. Lean on the Most High. And once you get that clear understanding, the Most High go give you a type of peace that you can't even understand or comprehend with the mind that you got now. With that concludes the lesson. Shalom.
You and I as the Israelites have to war within yourselves and against your own fleshly lust. You have to war with worldly temptation. With all the spiritual energy you can muster, war for the kingdom of Yah.
We aim and shoot scriptural bullets at demon troops. I'm just spitting truth. Look at yourself if it's staying you. Release yourself when the lies in the doctrine you clinging to. Repenting mean the path that you walking, you see it through. That mean you gotta switch up your people, leaving the crew. That mean you gotta watch what you say and watch what you do. But until you see the truth.